Hi, I'm Trista Martinson. I'm the Executive Director of Ramsey, Washington Recycling and Energy. And I'm here today at the Recycling and Energy Center with Commissioner Victoria Reinhardt. And we're going to talk trash.
Yes, we are.
You might hear some booms and bangs in the background because it's a working facility and our operators are out there right now sorting our trash. So, Commissioner Reinhardt, you have been dubbed the Queen of Trash. Tell me, where did that start?
Well, you know, whenever I start talking about trash, I get very excited and very motivated to try to convince people about what their role is in it.
Right.
And so I would always say, I love trash because, and I say, you probably wonder why. And it's because every single person makes a difference.
That's right.
Every single decision that each of us make every day, whether you're in business or home or wherever you're out recreating, the decisions that you make there make a difference on the climate and what happens to it.
Yeah.
And so it was actually Commissioner Ortega and Commissioner Bennett that said, well, you talk about this all the time. You're like the queen of trash. And I was like, all right, yes, I like that. And honestly, I do. I wear it as a wonderful moniker because it really does speak to what I believe is needed in the environment, and that's a clean environment, clean air, clean water. And that starts with what we throw away.
That's absolutely right. But this started even before you were a commissioner, right? I mean, your history in trash goes back a little further.
It does.
Yeah.
And actually, the queen of trash came after I was a commissioner.
Yeah.
Because I just couldn't stop talking about it. But actually, I worked for a county commissioner, Bob Orth, who had many influences on my life. He changed the trajectory of my life with the work that he did. And this is on the personal side, but there was domestic violence in my first marriage. And he introduced me to the Wilder program and literally saved my life and my son's. Yeah. And so he really wanted me to experience all of the things with being a commissioner's aide. Yeah. And that included the fact that the Waste Management Act had passed, and it put all the responsibility for garbage onto counties. And it said that no unprocessed waste was to go into a landfill after 1991.
Okay.
Well, we didn't make that happen, but that was the law at the time. And so Ramsey and Washington County were very busy trying to get this all done by the end of 1984 because of the fact that there was other things that were coming into play that we knew that if we got it done by then, we would be in good shape to move forward. Yeah. And so he got me very involved in it. And as I said, I fell in love with what you could do, the change you could make in the world simply by talking about this and getting people to do different things. So fast forward, he then left being a commissioner, but I was here for the groundbreaking of this original facility because of having been his assistant. So it was very exciting to be here, and I remember just being all smiles when we were here. And that was, at that time, I mean, you have to think about how long ago that was. The refuse-derived fuel, it was forward-thinking technology. It was just unheard of in the United States. And so to have this facility and to know what it could do and that it was going to make a difference in the fact that the waste wasn't going to go into a landfill, which is the biggest problem that we have. I mean, 17% of all greenhouse gases come from landfills. And so that was the real crux of it, was that we didn't want the waste going into landfills. The recycling part of it really didn't come about until later, where we said, hey, there's other things we can do. We can prevent waste, we can reduce, reuse, recycle, get rid of the toxicity in waste. So there's many different aspects to it.
Yeah, so you were here for the groundbreaking. You were an aide then.
Yes.
What year did you get elected as commissioner?
I was elected in 1996.
Okay.
I beat the 22-year incumbent, 9-year chairman of the board. No one except my oldest son thought I could do it. My husband said to our son, he said, at what point did you know your mother was going to win? And he said, the day she decided to run. And so that's when I became a commissioner. So I was sworn in January of 1997. And everything that had anything to do with waste management, I was assigned to it. And I was very happy about that.
I bet you were. Well, we're happy about that too, because you really have set the standard for all counties, not just in Minnesota, but across the country on how to do this. So you had this vision, you had this start. You know, how was it that we actually got to be owners of this facility? Because we weren't before you were a commissioner.
Right. at the time we had a public-private partnership that was to deal with the waste, and then NSP, which is now Excel, of course, was where it was being burned. So the refuse derived fuel, first of all, for people to understand it, it's where they chop up the waste and then it goes to be burned that way. Nothing is burned here.
Right.
And so how it evolved really was we came to the end of a term of that contract with the private vendor, and they were looking at getting out of the business.
Okay.
And so we were like, okay, well, what do we do? Let's look at this. And I was chair of the Ramsey, Washington Resource Recovery Facility Board, because that's what we were known as then, and said, okay, well, you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to have a series of basically all-day workshops, because garbage is a very complicated issue. It sounds easy, but it isn't.
Right.
And so we brought in all the different kinds of what we could turn it into, how we could do more recycling, what it would mean to the taxpayers as far as the cost, and all of these things. We really dug deep into it. And it was about halfway through that, because let me put it this way. A commissioner said to me, well, Victoria, what do you want to do? Because we're going to take your lead on this. Right. And I said, well, the problem is I'm leading in a different direction than I thought I was going to.
Oh.
Because I thought we would say, no, we're not going to do this.
Oh.
And see what happened with them selling it to someone else.
Okay.
And as I saw the economics of it and what we could do and how we would make things different than they were, I said, we need to buy this. It was better for the taxpayers. It was better for the environment. And we were going to do so much more. But I did tell the board at that time, I said, I am supporting this wholeheartedly, but I want you to know from day one, we're going to look at advanced technologies. I want to get to gasification. And we're not going to wait and see how it goes. We're going to do what we need to do here, but that is our goal. And we're going to do it.
That's amazing. You know, we were doing an orientation for some new incoming commissioners earlier today, and they said, you know, some good idea fairy had this idea to not just buy the facility, but really think about advanced technologies that we see now in place, right? Our organics recycling. And that was you. You were the good idea fairy. And now we're doing it, and you're watching it being built. So how does waste designation, this is something that not everyone knows about. So will you explain a little bit about waste designation and how that allowed us to do the work that we're doing?
Yes, I'm sorry that I missed that when you were talking about how we ended up owning this place. So when the Waste Management Act was passed, there was designation. The state gave us designation so we could say that any waste in Ramsey and Washington counties had to come to this facility, which is why it could be, it could work, because you couldn't use just part of it, and if we're going to truly do the environmental thing, that's what we needed to do anyway. Well, that was struck down at the U.S. Supreme Court, that you couldn't do that because it interfered with interstate commerce.
Okay.
And so we said, okay, well, we need to, and that was pretty, like about halfway through.
Okay.
And so we had to change everything. And so we thought, well, what else can we do? We need to get contracts. We need to get the waste in here. And so we worked a lot with the haulers, and those were a lot of ups and downs on that.
Yeah.
And needed to figure out how we could get the waste here. So we had these contracts, and we had enough waste coming in because we had an amount that we had to bring in. If we didn't bring it in, we still had to pay for it.
That's right.
And so we got those contracts in place. And then what happened was the way the Supreme Court, there were lots of rulings on this.
Of course.
And so what came down was, well, if it is publicly owned and operated, then you have the right to designate the waste. Oh. So that was probably the biggest thing, because we knew that we could do it because we could do designation, which we did after we purchased it, but it had to be publicly owned and operated. And so that's how we ended up making this decision. So there were so many moving parts in all of that also to make the decision. But when we made it, it was, okay, we're going to do this part of it, because that's what we need to do right now, but we're not stopping there.
That's fantastic.
I kind of think I scared him a little bit because I'm German and Irish, and so it was like, we're going to do this. That's why.
That's right. And then you're going to hold the line to make sure we get the
And I have to tell you, I mean, I really didn't scare them, but because everybody on both the Ramsey County and Washington County boards were like, yes.
Yeah.
And then we got into the facility for the first time after we had purchased it.
Tell me about that, because it looks very different today than when you bought it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We realized just what kind of shape it was in.
Yeah.
There had been no investment in any equipment, even the trucks. They were painted brown for a reason.
Oh.
It covered up the rust.
Oh, my.
And it was really in difficult shape. Mm-hmm. And we said, okay, well, we've got to do a lot, and we've got to do it right now. Yeah. And we had just invested the money in purchasing it.
Right.
But we said, we've got to set aside money strictly just for bringing this up to where it needs to be before we can even make any improvements.
Right.
And so we have the committee that deals with recycling and energy, and we have an ex officio member from the city of Newport, because that's where we're located.
That's right.
And one from the Pollution Control Agency, and they have been active partners from day one, trying to help us do the right thing and figure out how it can be covered, whether there are grants or if we have to, do it on the taxpayers. Right. But the fact is, we have actually saved money. I know it doesn't seem like that when we look at the whole big picture, but we actually have, because people have a better way of dealing with their trash, and we have end markets, we have different ways that we're dealing with once it's there. So when we came in and saw what we had, it was like, oh my gosh, the odor mitigation that was supposed to be in here wasn't. And so we were like, okay, what can we do, and what do we need to do first? Right. And honestly, odor mitigation was probably the top one.
Yes.
Because we wanted to make sure that we were good neighbors, and that took a lot because we had to work on the building itself before we could put new things into it.
Right.
And so it was quite the process, but we set up a facilities committee and a finance committee and figured out how can we make this happen in a really good and fast way.
Right.
Because we knew that we wanted to move as quickly as possible. And so the committees, we all worked very hard putting everything together, and then came up with a plan on how we were going to do it and how it was going to be paid for and how we would go for state money for different things. And it has evolved to what it is today.
Yeah.
Believe me, no one would have wanted to tour the other facility other than me. I did. It wasn't something that was a showcase. And in many ways, this is a hardworking facility, but it's also a showcase for people so they can understand what their decisions mean.
That's right.
And when you see it, I don't see any way that you can't fall in love with it.
It's remarkable what you all were able to do in such a short time. It's been 9 years since you purchased it. You've invested $50 million in improvements to the facility itself and the lines and how we do this work. It's really incredible. And now we have a great relationship with the city of Newport. Right?
Yes, we do.
They really love our odor mitigation, and now we're teaching others how to do that odor mitigation, because we know sometimes it gets smelly around here, but it isn't garbage.
Yes. Well, and I think they also appreciate the fact that this is really what was originally thought of as, put it someplace where nobody's going to see it.
That's right.
Is now a gem.
That's right.
Because people want to come here, and when they come to Newport, for the facility, there's other things to do here as well.
That's right.
And in the surrounding communities. And so it's something that I know we are proud of, Washington County is proud of it, but the city of Newport and those around us are also proud of the fact that we're doing the right thing for the environment.
Yeah. Now, you didn't stop just at a facility, though. You're a go-getter, yes. And people know you outside of here, right? So we have this great facility. We're processing 445,000 tons a year of trash, but you didn't stop there because you have really been focused on upstream. Yes. So tell me about some of the legislation you've worked on to change that upstream, because there's been a whole host from banning mercury and TCE to carpet recycling, right? Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, I hadn't thought about all the different products that we worked on. And it really was about products to begin with and banning them.
Yes.
And that's where we were like, okay, well, again, you can't just ban something and think that something good is going to happen.
That's right.
You have to have alternatives. And so I have gradually moved towards the extended producer responsibility model.
Yes.
And we just passed the one for plastic packaging, and I just did a news conference the other day about that and how exciting that is, where producers are taking responsibility. It also incentivizes them if they can reduce their costs by doing different products.
Right.
that are recyclable or reusable.
Yeah.
Or just lessening the amount of packaging.
Right.
So one of the things that I worked on very hard was when there was mercury in clothing.
Right.
And
this is shocking to me when I learned that we even put mercury in our clothing. Like, we all know it's bad.
Especially where it was.
Right.
It was for babies in their shoes, because a long time ago when they had the flashing lights, well, the babies weren't walking, so it wasn't going to flash. So they put a mercury switch in the shoe.
Isn't it crazy what we do for fashion?
And there was mercury in clothing as far as purses and different things like that, where anything that was flashing probably had a mercury switch in it.
Oh my goodness.
Anyhow, so Senator Sandy Rummel at the time, we worked together on this, and she got the support that was needed. And I got a call from a friend of mine in Chicago. And he said, Victoria, what are you doing? He said, do you really think you can do this? I mean, this is something that's international.
Oh.
And I said, I think we can. Because they're going to have to, now that people know what's in them,
right.
First of all, they're not going to want them.
That's right.
And they can't just throw them in the trash even, which of course they were doing. So I said, this is going to be a change in the entire system.
Yeah.
And it was.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see that anymore in shoes. I mean, they were high-end shoes. And they changed, not just for Minnesota, because that's true. You're not going to change something just for Minnesota in a global market. Right. But they changed it, and it was global. And so that's how come even now with the extended producer responsibility on packaging.
Yes.
I believe that once the incentives for doing so are on the producer, they're going to go, well, this is something we can do. It'll help the environment. It'll save us money. It'll, our product is just as safe. Now, there are some things that have to be exempted, and that's okay.
Right.
But it is all these changes that we make. The BPA in baby bottles.
Right.
The mercury was obviously one, but not just in clothing. We had to deal with that. TCE ban, we were the first in the country to do that. And that was because of a plant in White Bear Lake that had a terrible TCE problem, but a pollution problem. But then we went, wait a minute, it's not just there.
Right.
And now I believe it has been banned at the federal level. I think that was very recently.
That's right.
And I said at the time, when we do it, people will be paying more attention, and they will take it up to the next level, which I actually worked on that as well, trying to make sure that happened. At one point, we had to ban tires from the landfills, and they couldn't come here, and we had other products, the mercury lamps. That was a big one. And people were up in arms over the fact that they weren't going to be able to buy something that had the ballast lights like this. They were everywhere.
Right.
And no, you can do that without having mercury in them.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and that's just, I'm just trying to think of all the products.
I know,
But there have been things, but now it is, I have, at the National Association of Counties, I've been a leader on this issue there. And I think they just did get kind of tired of me, because every year I'd bring, okay, this product.
Right.
And it was always about extended producer responsibility, but I did it product by product.
Right.
And and you had to renew those every year, as you know, from your former life as a commissioner. And so every year I would add one. And so I was up to 5, and they said, maybe we should just do a platform on extended producer responsibility that covers everything. And now it's in the platform for the National Association of Counties, and has been for quite some time, and has been used across this country.
Yes.
So that we can do things better rather than just trying to resolve something after it's already happened.
Right. I mean, it seems like every year there's a new product, a new thing that comes out that is made for convenience, but they're not really thinking through what happens next. So this extended producer responsibility forces them to think on the front end is, how do you dispose on it? What do you do? What do you think? What's the hot thing right now? I know you're still working on, I know you're still working on it. So if you could ban the next thing, what would it be?
It would be the disposable lithium batteries.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm so proud of Washington County.
Yes.
They passed an ordinance that, yes, you can sell the vaping pens with this that is meant to be tossed out.
Right.
And it's so dangerous, especially for a facility like this.
Yes.
But it's dangerous in general.
Yes.
I mean, this is getting into our waste, it's getting into our water and everything else when you throw them into the garbage. But they said, okay, you can sell it, because you couldn't sell. But if you sell it, you have to have, that same place has to be able to take them back.
That's right. Because we don't want them in the trash.
Right.
They're causing fires. This
Yes.
is the thing that's keeping us up at night is
Yes.
potential for fires. We are paying higher insurance costs because of fires. And other facilities around the country and the world actually are having these same fires. So you're right, lithium batteries.
Well, and even if they don't end up here, they're
Right.
still going to end up in our environment.
That's right.
And so I just think it's brilliant, and I hope that we can do that at the state level.
Yeah.
I know there were things about lithium batteries not going into the waste stream, but I
Yeah.
think we can make it even better because
Yeah.
they will be there.
Right.
And
They're
I
in
think
everything,
that's
right?
one of the things that we talked about when you do a banning of something. It maybe raises people awareness, but it doesn't actually change behavior
Right.
because if you don't have someplace convenient to put it, you're going to put it where you always did.
That's right. That's absolutely what's easy, right?
Yeah.
So you have talked about banning products, you've talked about changing human behavior, but one of the other big programs that you have rolled out just in the last few years is about food scraps.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, I'm so excited about that.
And you didn't do it just in food scraps, but you really pushed us to go further as a board to say, we're not just going to put another cart at someone's house and another truck on the road. So say more what your line of thinking was around our food scrap collection.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of environmental reasons for doing this and also convenience for people. But putting more trucks on the road, I mean, one garbage truck is like 2,000 cars.
Right.
And so I think about public works because I am a county commissioner.
Yes.
And so there's so many different things and the pollution that comes from that. So we said, okay, how can we do this? And I have to tell you, the staff here did an amazing job, and in our 2 counties, did an amazing job of doing the research on this because we needed, in order to not have an extra truck, we needed to have some sort of a bag.
Right.
But we didn't want to have just more plastic either.
That's right.
And so we said, okay, we need to have a durable, compostable bag to put the food scraps in.
Right.
And there was a lot of testing and a lot of time. In fact, we hit a couple of hiccups and we had to slow it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make sure that it could get through the system here
Yes.
and that it would compost. And then, of course, beyond that, go into the anaerobic digester, which I'll get to in a minute.
Yes.
But so we said, okay, we want to make sure we do this right. And we were talking 2 counties wide.
Right.
This is huge.
Huge.
And we can't just go, okay, day 1, boop, here you go. And so we did 2 pilot projects in each county. Both of them happened to be in my district in North St. Paul and in Maplewood, and said, okay, how does this work? You sign up. We're trying to figure out all the things that could go wrong.
Right.
And we were able to change a lot of things.
Yeah.
In that area, they were offered 6-gallon and 13-gallon bags, depending on the size of their family.
Right.
And they were told what to do. And it's all voluntary. You
Right.
don't have to do it, but it doesn't cost you anything to do it either.
Right.
It made it so convenient for people. And we surpassed, I mean, we hope to get at least 40% when it's fully matured. I think it's going to go higher than that.
That'd be great.
Because we had 10% within a couple of weeks,
Right.
which is crazy. That's one of the biggest questions
Yeah.
all of us commissioners get
Yeah.
is when is this going to be in my neighborhood?
That's right.
When am I going to get it?
Yeah.
And so we've got AI, the technology, the robots. I just love talking about the robots because I'm at home, although it's not in my city yet, but I will.
That's right.
A food scrap bag that has been delivered to me, a year's supply.
That's right.
And I will put my food scraps in there. I will tie it off. I will throw it into my garbage
That's right.
because it's going to come to this facility or one of the other sorting
right.
facilities. It'll go through the process here. We pull out a lot of things here,
Yes.
but it will go through the robotic system, and those green bags will be pulled out. And for the near term, they will end up going to a compost facility.
Yep.
And then in 2028, we will have at that same location, near that same location anyhow, the anaerobic digester,
Yeah.
which is, to me, what I had hoped for and what I said at the very beginning,
That's right.
that we need to get to gasification, and that's what this is. It's carbon-free.
That's right.
The bags, the food scraps go into that anaerobic digester. It works like a cow's stomach.
That's right.
And once it's going, then it produces energy, so it's gas that is being used, and it uses their own gas to keep this going.
Right.
But it is used in the community, And the end product of that is called biochar. And that can be used then as a soil amendment.
Yeah. Isn't that amazing? It's like a complete circle.
Complete circle.
Natural.
Plus, an added benefit, which I knew was possible, but we have been testing it to make sure, is that we tested for PFAS.
Yes.
A lot of people know about PFAS now, and that it's a forever chemical. The heat in this and in the biochar in parts per trillion is not there.
Right.
So it tears apart or blows apart, whatever, the PFAS, and it is gone.
Yes.
It is not going into our landfill.
That's right.
It's not going into our air. It is simply gone.
That's right.
So if we did it for no other reason than that, that would be enough because of how pervasive it is.
Plus, you're diverting 65,000 tons from the landfill. It would have been in the landfill before. So it's a win-win-win circular economy.
There's nothing that is not a win about this. Plus, the other thing is, as you said, you have other commissioners, other counties coming in, other people that are interested in this.
That's right.
If this works, and I know it will, you can add on digesters. And so we can handle more waste.
That's right.
Now, for Ramsey and Washington counties, our amount is what we need, but I think that others will join in on this. And so we're the first, and I am very proud of that. And this actually came from the idea for this particular technology came from Sweden. I was invited to Sweden to view their facilities with a group, and I presented there on the circular economy.
Oh, right.
And that is where the Bill Keegan from DEMCON was on that trip as well. And I saw his eyes light up when we went to the anaerobic digester, and I was like, yes, you can do this.
That's right.
So it all, it's kind of funny how things kind of come together.
That's right.
And so with that, though, I do want to tell one story about you.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So as most people know, you were on the Ramsey County Board of Commissioners.
That's right.
And when you first came onto the board, I took you aside and I said, I'm telling you right now, you're going to love trash.
I remember this very well. I thought you were crazy.
Yes. And I told that to your brother, and he said, I know the look she gave you. And I said, absolutely. She was like, no, that whatever. I'll humor Victoria for right now. It didn't take very long.
It didn't. You're right.
And because, again, the difference it makes.
Absolutely.
For the environment, for everything that is our air, our water, everything.
It really is about that circular economy, right? So that's a word that's you've been kicking around for a couple decades.
Yes.
That has now caught on. I was in Germany last week, and all they were talking about was the circular economy. And I was like, I know a woman by the name of Reinhardt that might have started that. And that phrase is now coined all over the world, is really about the whole system and how we get everything out of the waste that's produced or the product that's produced that we're using so nothing's wasted.
Correct.
Nothing is wasted, which is really amazing. And you've been able to lead that and really just one person at a time, get them excited about trash.
Yes.
That's really why you're the queen of trash.
Yes. As I said, that's an honor to me.
That's awesome. So what continues to motivate you and drive? Because it's always, you've never stopped. You've accomplished, you bought the facility, you're banning products. It's always the next thing. What drives you?
First, it's not just me, because none of this happens without other people realizing the value of it. I do push pretty hard, however.
Yes.
I think that, once the anaerobic digester is fully operational, I think that there are other things that we can do beyond that even. Even with the biochar, okay, we know it's a soil amendment, but I bet there are other things that we can do. Yeah. And maybe this is something that we look at as far as, PFAS and the different aspects of it. I know that there are other technologies out there that I'm not totally familiar with yet, but just as we thought chopping it up and burning it was the best thing we could possibly do.
Yeah, that's right.
I also know that the digester is probably not the end all and be all as well.
Right.
But right now, it is pretty amazing. But there may be other things that we can do with products before they get to that point.
That's right.
because that is really what we should be doing. We should be looking at how do we reduce, how do we eliminate wastefulness, and making sure that people know that their decisions make a difference. And the producers, kind of coming full circle to the producers, they produce what they think we want.
That's right.
And they sell it to us, and we do want it.
Right.
But when you give us something that is better for the environment, and I still get my product,
right,
even better.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's going to be a lot more that's going to be happening, especially on the producer side of things. I know, having worked with Coke and Pepsi and trying to figure out, well, what can we do to reduce all of the packaging that is associated with drinks?
Right.
And just having those discussions wouldn't have happened 10 years ago even.
Right.
And there are a lot of industries that are not, it's not just being put upon them, but they're saying, what can we do better?
Right.
And I think that that's wonderful. So I think just the fact that we are having the discussion and trying to push as hard as we can to make those decisions earlier rather than later, we will produce less trash.
Yeah.
And we will recycle what needs to be out there and recycled. And there's other things that we can do that will make a true difference in this. So I think it's, the sky's the limit.
Yeah. So you're leaving the board, you're retiring, you're leaving the R&E board as well. What advice do you have for the new incoming board? We're going to have new people that have not done this work. They don't have your history. What advice do you have?
I would tell them, first of all, that they're going to learn to love this because of the difference that it makes.
Yeah.
And so to embrace that, because the change that you make in this area is going to be well beyond 7 generations ahead. And so the kind of the weight on their shoulders, but also the fact that they are now in the position, a key position, where they can make that difference even more.
Right.
It's great where we're at right now, but there's more to be done.
Yeah.
And so knowing that I'm handing off that mantle to them, and don't get me wrong, because the people that are there right now have that passion.
Yes.
But we're changing the board as well.
Yes.
And so it's even going to be more on the individual commissioners.
Yeah.
So again, this is not something that I even came close to doing by myself.
Right.
I may have been the instigator, but everybody came along. And so just to keep that excitement up, don't sit back and say, okay, now we've done it all.
Right.
No, you haven't.
Right.
There's more that you can do. And all you have to do is embrace it and you go, wow, there is something here.
That's right.
Now, I do want to point out also that as a county commissioner, this particular issue is a very small part of my job.
That is right. It is a very small part.
I don't want people to think that that's all I did, but
that's
I
right.
mean, we have health and human services,
Yes.
we have roads, and we have transit, and we have all kinds of libraries. I love libraries.
Right.
And so this has been actually a small part of my job,
right.
but one that I am so passionate about
Yes.
that it just comes through.
And it's all interconnected, right?
It
I
is.
mean, they don't really separate, because we think about, even your work on libraries, but you brought recycling bins to the libraries. You brought in recycling and made Public Works start thinking about products they're using on building roads and dishes and reducing salt. So the environment plays a part, and your role in kind of keeping that framework has been across the whole county.
Yes, economic development,
Yes.
the number of jobs,
Yes.
the contribution to the products or the economy in Minnesota, it's huge.
It is huge, yeah.
But I can tell you that there were times when I know people were looking at me like, really? When we decided that we wanted to test out having shingles in asphalt for trails
Yes.
and potentially for roads, but for trails anyhow, we thought, well, let's just see how this works. Well, they were shingles from my house.
Oh, I
had
didn't
a
know
store,
that.
yes.
That is awesome.
And I said, and I have some shingles for you too, so let's do it now because I have to replace my roof now. And so they said, okay, let's do it.
So where is that trail?
It's the one in Battle Creek,
Yes.
Lower Afton Park.
So when you walk on that trail, you're walking on your former roof.
Yes.
That is amazing.
Now, they had to have more shingles than just mine.
Sure.
But I did say, hey, I've got a deal for you.
That's fantastic. And it worked.
It does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we're still doing that across the county.
Yes.
Excellent.
And there are other things that we are doing that are just so much better for the environment.
Yes.
Even, just having things that were drainage is improved
Right.
with the landscaping. instead of just putting down concrete or
That's right.
asphalt. There are so many things that, you're right, absolutely tie into all of this and are very exciting to see.
That is awesome. You have quite a legacy, but we know that you might be retiring from this role, but you're not done. You're going to keep going. And so I know that you'll be appointed to boards and commissions and keeping an eye on how things are going. Tell me, what's your hope for us here at R&E and where you hope to see us in 10 years?
Well, again, I think with the operation that is in place here now, with the new board, the new way we are trying to make sure that we're really zeroing in on what we can do and how we can even improve that, I really do think that what we have here, even though it is very exciting, that there will be more and more improvements. I think the use of the robotic arms, I can see that going on into other areas of the work being done here, not just for those that are there right now. But you have to start somewhere.
That's right.
And so I see it going further. I really do. I want to stress also that one of the main things that is going to be really critical for R&E is I don't know if it's marketing or what it is, but making sure that the message gets out there about how people can prevent waste.
Yes.
And I know when people hear zero waste, they get all nervous about it. But it's not something that I use a lot because it doesn't ring true to people.
Right.
But there are ways that you can make changes in your lifestyle that get you as a person to where you want to be, which is not producing garbage.
That's right.
And so I think that that's something that a bigger role that this R&E will take on is educating people about what not to purchase, or when you purchase it, what are your options for dealing with it. We have in Washington County, I was just there for the ribbon cutting for their new environmental center.
That's right.
Ramsey County is going to have one in Roseville, which is right in smack dab in the middle of our county, and I'm going to be there for the ribbon cutting there as well. And so there's so many different options now, and that's I think sometimes we think one size has to fit all, and it's just not true.
Right.
We still have the curbside recycling. We'll still have other things that will go on.
Right.
We'll have the cleanup days in the cities. And we have drop-offs right now out in the community for food waste and yard waste and different things.
Right.
And those will continue.
That's right.
Because you have to meet people where they are and make it convenient. If it's convenient, they'll do it.
That's right.
So I see it really building on what you have here. All the tours, it raises awareness, and people are going home and thinking differently about their trash.
That's very true.
And so I think that this will continue to grow and be even more important in the state. I think it will also put the state of Minnesota on the map. I think there'll be more of these facilities, not county by county, but strategically placed across the state once they see that it works. And people will be coming from Sweden to Minnesota.
That's right.
To see what we're doing.
That will be great. Well, I know that you've inspired me. Obviously, I got the trash bug, and here I am now doing this work full time, and you've impacted so many people through the years. So we are incredibly grateful. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your leadership at the R&E. We so appreciate you, and we can't wait to see what's next.